Hello, everybody. Come on in. Today we are talking about the historic. Um, Arty's here. Let's see. We can get. We're going to be talking about the historic decision to convict Derek Chauvin. There he is. Hi, Liam.
Hi.
Hi, is all of our team. Hey, Arty. Let me
Hey,
put
Arty.
Jonah in the
Hello.
room. There he is. Okay, everybody's here. Welcome to the. We're waiting on Jonah. This happens to him every time. So I was just giving a sort of synopsis of what we were talking about. But, I am so elated for this decision. And it may not look like I'm excited, but I'm excited on the inside today, okay? But, Liam, do you think that this changes or it shifts um, the conversation a little bit? Because historically, juries normally believe police. Do you think this sort of changes that conversation?
I think it does. I think it's not perfect justice because perfect justice obviously would be that this never ever happened. But I do feel like it's a step in the right direction. I'm not sure if it's gonna how many more times this will happen. I hope it becomes a regular occurrence of cases that do happen. Ideally, a case like this should never happen again. I really hope so. But I definitely know from my stance as a white man, I have learned so much since this case has started, and a lot about implicit biases. Because in Maine, we are like 98, 96% white. So you don't really get that much of a cultural diversity in learning. And I feel like definitely from this trial, I have learned so much of where I am and how much farther we all can improve, especially the white community can definitely improve, and how we all deserve fair treatment and how we should be able to at least try to do that.
Mhm. Artie, do you think that this changes the conversation for the African American community? Well, and really people of color, because it now says that cops don't have free range of their their duties, and um, they cannot abuse their power. I think we use that word a lot with President Trump. Do you think that that sort of um, decision from this jury uh, was important?
Well, I definitely think it was important. I think that this is a decision that, um, we shouldn't have to. I was hoping it would be a decision that we could all assume that, of course, it's going to turn out this way because it really should. And it just makes me think of all of those people that did whose case maybe wasn't as publicized, wasn't as fought over, which way we probably know that went. And I think this is definitely a conversation for everyone. However, I think the African American community should definitely be the people taking the lead on it. I think we're all kind of, I guess, in a way, a guest at this table, and I want to learn as much as I can. So I think having prioritizing African American organizers and activists in the face of this movement is very, very important.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely, and I think that this is such a historic case to. We're trying to get Jonah in here. It is so difficult
Yeah,
to do.
Jonah, if you want to click on the actual logo and then request to join from there, it might be a bit easier for you.
Yeah. But Kamala Harris today said that the verdict is just a piece of it, and that it will not heal the pain that existed for generations, that has existed for generations among people who have experienced and firsthand witnessed what now a broader public is seeing because of smartphones and ambiguity of our ability to videotape in real time what is happening in front of our faces. Does that statement from the vice president set the tone for sort of police reform? Because if I remember correctly, Kamala Harris dealt immensely with the problem of understanding the term defund the police. It was something that she had difficulty understanding in her campaign. And then when she became President Biden's running mate, it was something that she also struggled to answer, not only as a vice presidential candidate, but as a senator. Do you think that this tone now changes the conversation? I'll start with Arty on this one.
I think, as much, I agree with her tweet, but I think it's something that young people have been saying from the beginning of when this all started, and we've said that this is the way to go. So it's nice to see that people are starting to see where we're coming from. Defund the police, reform the police, whichever angle you want to approach the labeling with. I think the most important thing is that we do have more and more and more police reform. The fact that he was the first police officer in his state to get convicted is just baffling. And I think it would be just plain ignorant for us to say that there isn't a serious problem in police systems all across America. This isn't just in southern states. The Boston police in Massachusetts is insanely overfunded. And, I hope it does set the tone for police reform moving forward, because I think it's something that we all need in our local communities to do. And honestly, as much as people want to say, these protests, how much are they really doing? They're doing quite a bit. I know in our community alone, these protests and these appeals to state legislators have been able to reallocate over $3.6 million of funds that would have originally gone to our police department.
Yeah, and so the police officer that unfortunately killed Daunte Wright is being represented by the same lawyer that defended George Floyd. Liam, do you think the verdict there will be somewhat similar? Because if we looked at the defense team this time, it's
Did you mean the lawyer that is
yeah.
representing Derek Chauvin,
Yeah,
not George
yes.
Floyd?
Oh my goodness. Yes, that's what I meant.
It's
I'm
fine.
so sorry. I really meant Derek Chauvin. I did. I meant Derek Chauvin. That's what
It's fine. There's too many names to try to
it
remember.
is.
It's
But
hard.
yeah, do you think that the verdict will be similar to that now? Because he's already had a play at this game.
I don't think so. It depends. It depends on if he's learned from this. Obviously, he has, but at the same time, I think he's trying to defend the indefensible.
Right.
That's what was proven here is that he said that it was authorized use. It's not. It's murder. It's been proven over 3 times by the jury that is murder and manslaughter. So he's facing an incredibly uphill battle, and I wouldn't doubt if he's doing it solely for show and to get his name out there. He's probably gonna. I think it's purely a monetary business decision on behalf of Chauvin's lawyer to now represent the police officer who killed Daunte Wright. I think either he truly believes it, or he just wants the money, or it's both.
Yeah. Artie, your reaction to that?
I kind of agree with what was just said. If I would probably say the same thing, and I think that just the fact that he is willing to continue to do that, I think it shows that I honestly don't know if he genuinely believes it or not. But even if he doesn't believe in it, he doesn't care if he believes in it, which in and of itself is horrible. But just as a side note, I think what disheartened me most about both trials were this conversation of are the Black victims involved guilty? Are the Black victims involved intoxicated? Question mark, question mark, question mark. It bothered me so much because that wasn't the issue at hand. Even guilty people don't deserve to be treated that way by the police. And I think once we seriously realize that the police cannot act as a judge or a jury, I think that's so important. I definitely think that we've put too much power and too many jobs in our police today, like to give them too many tasks to do. But sorry, to get back to your original question, I definitely think that he's got a greater plan. I would not be surprised if, come some election season, he's involved again. But I'm not saying if he would run, but in some way.
Oh, it wouldn't surprise me at all. Yeah. I just look at the completely out of left field, or I should say right field, this attack against Maxine Waters for stating what I believe is the complete truth and honesty, that if the juries did not find Chauvin guilty in any counts, that there probably would have been a lot of rioting. That's literally what she was saying. And they tried to, both Kevin McCarthy, the Republicans, and Chauvin's lawyer all tried to defend it or twist it in their way of saying, well, I should get a mistrial, or she needs to be expelled or censured. And it wouldn't at all surprise me if some right-wing people, most likely the Marjorie Taylor Greenes and those guys, they somehow work with him, or he's working with them, or there's some weird thing going on. Because, having dealt with Trump for the last 4 years, nothing surprises me in politics anymore.
Yeah. And you see, I'm wearing my Department of Justice hat today because I feel that justice has been served. I think that not only has justice been served for the family of George Floyd, but it has been served for those families that are anticipating trials. It now sets the tone that times have changed. Ways of working prior have changed. I think that this historic case, in a way, has given. I'm now able to breathe, and I know that the I can't breathe sort of thing, but I'm saying that in a way of relief, because let's just be honest. I agree with Maxine Waters in part, because if they did not convict him, he probably. Do you believe that that's a good question, Jonah.
Jonah, how are you not on the live yet? I'm so confused.
You've got to update your app. Okay,
yeah,
I think it's your app.
That, Jonah, go and update that app.
Go and update the app again. My point is, do I think that it brought justice? Do I think that it brought the country closer together? I think it brought the African American community closer together. And the reason why I don't think it brought the entire country together is because you still have people trying to justify what just occurred. So I think, for me, and in my view, this brought the African American community closer together. We are now able to band together and say, you know what? We got justice for a life that is no longer here. How do we continue that mission? I don't think that white America truly understands in its entirety the dire situation that we are in. I don't think that white America also understands the fact that this has been going on since the dawn of time, and so you can't really turn back time.
I'm sorry, finish your thought.
No, but I was saying you can't turn back time with one conviction. You cannot turn back the hands of time of people who have been oppressed, depressed, and underserved in one conviction. So I don't think that this brought the American people closer together. I think it gave the American people an inside look on what the last 400 years of being Black in this country was. I think that this gave the American people as a whole stock in what we're actually doing. Because, and I'm going to let Ari say what she's going to say, but I just want to get this whole thing out before I turn the table back over. But I think that this gives the American people because I agree with Kamala. If there was no video of this, if there was no video of this at all, I think people would have, he probably wouldn't have been convicted. And so I think the sort of, I, I think that if you are trying to support, if you're trying to be an ally, you have to understand what you did wrong first. There is no way to be an ally in the African American community or any community in general if you don't understand the stock that you had in the problem. And I think one issue that Democrats and Republicans have, because I'm that only voice on this show that talks about both sides of the coin, but I think that the problem that Democrats and Republicans have is they cannot face the racist past that they've had. And I think in that specific regard, I think that until they do that, that is the only point in when we'll be able to be closer as a nation. Arty, you were going to say something, and I cut you off.
No, it's all good. That needed to be said. But I just think that, it's prevalent and our country and our systems don't honestly unfortunately don't encourage us to learn about this, because quite honestly, the way that we learn about this in our textbooks is that racism existed. Martin Luther King came in and then fixed. And that's obviously not what happened, but that's how most of our schools teach it. And I think it's so problematic, and that needs to change. But even going beyond that, what you touched upon, saying that kind of solving systems and issues like this with one broad stroke, we see it all the time, right? I think America is a country that likes to play into things that involve symbolism and things like that. And for example, like Black History Month, that seems to be like a great thing that we tend to do when Black history is American history. And
Yes.
It's something that we should treat just like we treat all of the rest of our history. We should be learning about it. It can't just be secluded to a month. And so I guess I completely agree with you about trying to fix all of this with one broad stroke. I don't think this in any way. I think it serves us accountability and maybe hopefully sets a precedent for future cases, but I don't think it in any way rights all of the wrongs that have happened and continue to happen in our country.
Absolutely. Now, I'm gonna address two questions in the chat. Do we think that the verdict today will serve as a stepping stone to healing? Am I reading that question right?
I think divides in America?
I think
Mr. Kamani, William Kamani from Massachusetts?
Well, Kamani from Massachusetts. I think that this verdict today served as a wake-up call. It served as a sort of siren to other officers and told them that you can't do this. I don't think that this will be a stepping stone towards healing divides in this country, because while the trial was commencing, there was another case of police brutality. So you can't really, and this is just my view, and I'll ask the rest of the panel, but you can't really work towards healing if everybody isn't willing to lay themselves on the table and truly understand their importance here. I think that when you ask anybody the question about race in this country, or any sort of taboo issue, we get so uncomfortable. And in that uncomfortability, we can't heal unless everybody is willing to say that I've done something wrong. And so I think that those are a couple of issues that we're continuing to have. And then I'll ask Liam, because I think I'm preaching to the choir there, but do you think that this will serve as a healing mechanism for the
I
country?
think I'm not sure how other communities will view it. I know for white community, I feel like maybe it depends. I definitely know if you're liberal and left-leaning, or a left-leaning independent, or an independent who believes in justice and not alternative facts,
Hmm.
then they will take this as okay. They hopefully, I know some will. I'm not sure all will. Of that, I definitely know there's going to be quite a large chunk that will not, and they'll
Right.
just further root themselves into white supremacy. Because one thing I've noticed is that because it never really, it's obviously as a white guy, I've never ever experienced anything like this. I've always been brought up to believe that like you always respect law enforcement. You just stay in your little bubble, don't do anything. And you always act like kind of like the good boy, and you always say yes sir like just like kind of always have to act like you just try. I'm not sure if this is true for everyone. It's just I've always was raised, don't mess with them, just respect them, let them be, and you won't be bothered, they won't bother you. And we've never really been taught how we've always been kind of taught stand up for what's right, but never taught how to stand up for what's right and how
No,
to
but
listen to
can I
others.
can I just interject one quick
Yeah,
thing? Because this is a very touchy subject for me.
it is. Oh, sorry. I thought you were
Well,
going to say
yeah,
for
and
everyone.
it is for a lot of people.
Hmm.
Um, and so I heard you say respect, honor, don't talk back. That we're taught that too. But see, the issue is it is rooted in a fear of the African American community
Hmm.
that that even when we do the same things you just said, the guy, the lieutenant, did exactly what he was trained to do. He pulled over. He got into the gas station in the light area. He put his hands out of his window, which I don't know if you, Liam, were taught to do that, but that was just an extra step of
We were
precaution.
always taught to put your hands on top of the steering wheel and always say yes sir or yes
Yes.
ma'am.
Well, see now the thing is, now we put our hands out of the window so they know there's nothing in our hands. And so I think that everything that you're taught, we're taught too, but it is a fear that has been ingrained in this society since the beginning of time that
It's
has
unreal.
that has caused a sort of societal fear for white cops in America to literally be afraid. And I think that is the problem. Now, I didn't
Hmm.
mean to cut you off there, but I just
No, no,
wanted to
no, it's
just
fine. See, this is
interject and
helping me
say,
learn
right,
because I've never, I find this type of conversation, even though it's uncomfortable, it's very informative. Because,
absolutely.
and it helps me, and I hope it helps people listening to learn that we are all taught the same. Now I know we're all taught the same thing, but there's these, and from what I'm getting, it's incredibly unfair. You shouldn't have to do that. No one, if they shouldn't target you based at all upon your skin. It should be entirely upon your actions. And your actions, even if they're the exact same, should not be judged because you may be something. I think
Yeah.
yeah, go ahead, Ari. I'm sorry.
It was just a side note, but I was just gonna say that, like, I babysit, and even among the kids that I babysit, this topic comes up a lot. And I think just because
Hmm.
I think this topic comes up a lot in a lot of conversations, that the African American kids that I babysit, I will tell you, have from age 6, age 5, have been taught and live in fear of these things happening and
Absolutely.
are taught these different things. And I just think it's so horrible. And versus, I think you're right. I think you're taught the same things, but the motives lie between respect and fear. So
Absolutely. And I think all communities, I think today, and I want our Caucasian viewers to understand that I get that you're with us and I get that you support us, but you could never walk a mile in my shoes or Arty's shoes or any person's of color's shoes because it is so different than what. Now, see, here's the thing. Being black and being disabled are two very interesting things. If you want to know more about that, DM me. I'll tell you all about it. But point is, if being black and disabled, you experience being dealing with racism, and you deal with ableism. So it's like race ableism. It's not a fun thing to deal with. And so I think in this particular instance, we have to understand that I get that you're with us and I get that you understand us. But if you had to live in our shoes for just 2 days, do you think you could manage it? Probably not. I think that there is sort of this stigmatism toward this conversation. Um, I'm sorry, I'm reading his comment. African Americans shouldn't have to look at a police officer and be afraid. And Jonah, and to that I would add, police officers don't have to be afraid when they see black people, when they see people of color. And so I think that it's sort, and I hate because he is also our lead, but I think that statement in and of itself represents exactly what I'm talking about. Because if we look at it honestly, that statement should have said police officers shouldn't be afraid of black people or African Americans because the we are afraid of police officers because they were afraid of us first. Like I didn't grow up with the fear of um, police officers. Just when I was born, I was like, oh, I hate the police. Right? No, it was because I think over time we saw it with Trayvon Martin, and that was the really first case of that that I saw in my life, and then I became more fearful of the police. Okay, and then and we keep seeing all these different cases.
yes.
And so I think that trickles into that. Go ahead, Arty. I'm sorry.
I think I was gonna say that it's so important not to I've seen so many people being like there are so many good police officers out there, and that's true. And I'm just that doesn't justify that there's an overwhelming problem in our police systems. And in when we talk about issues within our system, it's not saying that every single individual involved in the system is corrupt or wrong. I think we can all improve ourselves regardless of where you are. But just there's been a pattern, and even in court, you can't proof by evidence that this was based on race or anything like that. But we know that it most likely is because of these patterns. And I think I know, I wasn't born being I don't like the airport and I don't like this place. It was over time when I'm just immigration became a nervous thing. And I think I agree with you. I think that it's important to recognize that we get that you're with us, and but I won't understand. I won't ever understand what it's like to have that African American experience, which I think it's so important to keep educating ourselves and keep learning.
And I definitely know that anything I know that I am probably at an incredibly, I know I am at an incredibly privileged position. And from everything that's happened to me in my life, I feel like I'm put on this strange pedestal, and I don't know why. like I've always kind of thought that, like, why do I get preferential treatment over others when
Yeah,
there are many, many other people much more qualified than me? And that's something that I've always kind of struggled of how to figure that out and how to deal with it and how to make it fair. And it's really very hard because you try to tell people to do stuff and you think you've done something and it ends up either not working or nothing, and then nothing changes. And it's so incredibly frustrating to have to hear all these stories and to like want to help, but it doesn't change it. Or if I do help, it potentially makes it worse. And
yeah,
it it's it's so frustrating to have to hear these stories. And yeah, just now I'm thinking about it, just kind of what you're going back on earlier about how we all have to have these uncomfortable conversations. It reminds me of Brene Brown and her saying of we all have to rumble with vulnerability to be able to make progress.
absolutely.
And it makes me think of if every single person in this country, hell, in this world, went into counseling, we probably would be able to at least start a lot of the
Yeah,
issues. A lot of the
that's why
problems most likely would hopefully be solved quite quickly if people can like understand.
yeah,
You have to understand yourself first, and then like, because for this as an for me coming out, that experience, it's very like I'm for me, I had to figure out myself.
yeah.
Yep. And then that allowed me to gain the confidence and understanding of who I am to be able to then get at least an ounce of understanding of others. And so I'm just saying that's kind of what I had to go through. And it did help me at least be able to understand other people. And I really wish others would be able to rumble with their own vulnerability. And then maybe we can start
Absolutely.
to get some change going.
I think
I just want to read, before you do that, Artie, I just want to read what George Floyd's brother said a moment after the verdict was read. He said, Reverend Al Sharpton always told me, we got to keep fighting. I'm going to put up a fight every day because I'm not just fighting for George anymore. Um, I'm fighting for everybody around this world. Mr. Floyd said that he had received a worldwide support and for the cause, and with one unified message. He also included saying, "quote they're saying the same thing. We won't be able to breathe until you're able to breathe." He said, "Today we're able to breathe again." He also said, we are here and we're not going anywhere," he continued, before thanking protesters and the attorneys. Um, Justice for George Floyd means freedom for all. That kind of statement um, from the family um, means a lot to me because um, it it takes a lot to be in the front lines of this, going on Fox News, MSNBC, CNN, OAN, every other N there is. It takes a lot to talk about a traumatic experience. And I think this family, even his daughter, who said, my dad was a hero. We talk about heroes being first responders, being military servicemen and women. But we don't understand that heroes are not just ones that salute to the flag. It is those lives that were lost in this issue. It is those lives, because now it sets a precedent for other things that we may see. Breonna Taylor's mother, Tamika Palmer, said, thank God. Palmer also tweeted saying, today justice has been served. We are not done fighting for justice for all the victims and for families who haven't received theirs. And she's a part of that. So, and we're awaiting the president's responses to today. I think
I
that
think he's
this,
speaking right now. I just got like 5 notifications
I,
that something's
I
happening.
had one, and okay, so we're gonna wait for the president to
We,
make
yeah,
his statements, and we'll bring that to you also. But I think that this is a consequential moment in society right now. I'm just going to read a couple of the comments because they're over your faces and I can't see either of you. Langston Hughes said in his poem, Let America be America again. Oh, let America be America again, the land that has never been yet, the land that where every man is free. Well, thank you for that philanthropy, Jonah. We appreciate that. I wonder how do we make people reflect? I find that it is the most difficult to make someone look in the mirror and think about their own thoughts and actions. So I pose a question to the panel that's here. Do we think that this do we think that this will make people think?
I mean, I definitely think so. That I think I would be very concerned if people aren't taking the time right now to sit down and think about not only our society but ourselves and how we came to this point, because it wasn't just one or two things that led up to here. I think like even like apart from like the tweet, the protests and everything, the best thing that we can obviously do in all of this is be a better version of ourselves and educate ourselves and make ourselves better surrounding these issues, because if majority of our people did that and if our society as a whole did that, then that would probably be the best thing we could do going forward. But so I really do hope that this is something that we take the time to do moving forward, something that our schools I believe should encourage, and something that everyone should be doing. How is that done? I think that's probably going to be different for everybody. For some people, that might be educating themselves more. For some people, that might be having conversations with their Black friends. So, yeah, I guess that's what I think. But
Liam, do you think that this will make people wake up and smell the coffee that has probably been brewed too much and that is too bitter for
Well,
them
you can
to?
never have, as an engineering student, college student, you can never have too much coffee. Um, but definitely, I feel like this type of horrific event has definitely caused a lot of people to wake up and understand what's happening. I definitely know that I have, and I know a lot of people, a lot of my friends, especially a lot of my white friends have kind of, it somehow was a switch that flicked in them that allowed them to realize, oh, something might actually be really wrong with me. And it made them really kind of start to think about how they can be better.
Yeah.
I definitely know my university thankfully has been very active in understanding and trying to allow students the opportunity to learn and understand. Just about an hour ago, we all got an email from our university president about this decision. And they were very thankful that it happened. And they also said that we all need to be aware and do better. So it's nice to know that I feel like people are trying. I definitely also think this is already started. Especially, I was watching MSNBC when the guilty pleas were announced, and I'm not sure if it was before or after, but a white man, I think he was in his 40s or 50s, he was interviewed, and he said he was there because he realized that he needed to listen and he needed to learn. And I don't think
Yeah.
I've ever heard that ever on a newscast before, maybe once. So I feel like this has been one of those events that triggered it. And I mean, we even had protests in Portland, our biggest city in our state. Um, and the reaction that the police had what I've never, ever, ever seen in Maine. They had riot gear on. Given we are Maine, we like one of the oldest states in the nation. Portland's probably one of the most diverse states, and I mean cities in New England. But I've never seen the police just act the way that way, and I think that woke a lot of people up in Maine. And I know from my experience, it has woken me up. So I really, really, really hope that a lot more people take this opportunity to realize that in order for us to get better, and in order for us to be able to understand where we went wrong, and in order to improve, that we have to look internally into ourselves before we can help fix the issue.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Sorry for that really long-winded response.
No,
It's
no,
really
no.
complicated.
No. You said basically what I think everyone's sentiment is. But just now, Vice President Harris said, "Here's the truth about racial injustice. It is not just a Black America problem or a people of color problem. It's a problem that every American. It is keeping us from fulfilling the promise of liberty and justice for all." And I just want to include life, because that was the premise of that. And Kamala Harris, I tip my hat to you, because you know she's been very vocal about this issue. But I want to, while we're waiting for the president's remarks, I think that Colorado Governor Jared Polis watched our live last week,
Really?
because he just signed 2 new bills tightening gun regulations on Monday, nearly a month after the mass shooting in Boulder, Colorado, which left a police officer and 9 others dead. Both measures were introduced before the mass shooting occurred on March 22nd and at a grocery store, but the tragedy added public pressure and urgency to act. Democrats, who control both the House and the Senate, passed both bills without Republican support. So, do you
How
think
shocking.
that Governor Polis watched our live last week about this whole gun legislation issue? Because it became too quick. So do you think that, and I see what you just told me, Jonah, thanks. Jonah's our producer behind the scenes, that's why I keep nodding at him.
Who still couldn't get in the live?
He still couldn't get in
He
line.
just needs to close out of the app entirely and rejoin, and that should help. That, or turn off your phone and turn it back on.
That's what I did last time.
Thank you. Instagram, fix this issue, okay? Fix it so this can be done. Okay. No, but do you think, and I see that, Jonah, but do you think this is it a new dawn, a new day for gun legislation and gun reform?
Oh, Jonas, copy that. You know, it's weird for me to say that I guess, okay. Whew. It depends on the legislators that we have. And unfortunately, that is the case, because I honestly don't think that this should have remotely been an issue. At least some of the measures that we're talking about, like background checks, should have been an issue with a lot of these legislators. But I think that's what it comes down to. I really hope that it is. You know, with the NRA being bankrupt and all that, it seems like a good time. But I genuinely hope that it is a new thing, because every time we see something like this happens, it's thoughts and prayers and thoughts and prayers. And honestly, after a certain point, it just it loses its meaning in a way. And I think this is the only way we can act in these situations. It's also surprising for me to see other countries react to shootings that happen in their countries and their places, and just see how quickly action is taken. Like in Australia, they've barely had any mass shootings, and after the second one, they introduced like 7 bills the same day to pass gun legislation, most of which were passed. And I think that's something we can't even fathom in America, but I think
I don't think that's going to happen.
That's never going to happen, but like, I think that when we stop being so defensive with our arguments and so defensive of our characters and ourselves, I think that's when we can actually start acting. Because when we see conversations about things like this, it's coming sometimes from a place of like, no, let me like defend my actions even if I know that they're wrong. And I think once we stop doing that, we can get some real change. I'm very happy to hear that there's gun reform.
Yeah. I'm being told by one of our producers that Biden just created a clickbait quote. Biden said that systemic racism is a stain on our nation's soul. Now, I was going to make a joke with that, but I'm just going to leave it alone. I'm not even going to make my joke. I'm just going to say thank you to the president and move on. But I think it's been a stain on this country's soul that we have yet to uncover. Because, see, here's the thing. Let's say a car alarm is going off, right? And that alarm is going off and it just keeps going off. And then you become desensitized to the alarm going off. But it's still going off. And then when you get into another person's car and then get back into your car, it's like, what the heck was that? So it has been a stain on this country's soul since the car was being built.
I would go as far as to say it was founded in a lot of ways.
Oh, it so was. It so was. Our entire world that we know is based on white supremacy. It literally is. Look at it.
The police was founded on targeting Black people. That was the original intention. When you've got a system founded with that exact purpose, yes, there are going to be problems after that if you don't reform it. And
and it's so annoying to... Oh, go ahead, sorry.
I was just reading like Jonah's comments, many comments. He said that Biden said a brave young woman with a smartphone camera. I'm sorry, Jonah, I don't understand what you're saying. But Floyd's murder is still another alarm to our country that racism is still there. Yeah. I think it's really something we can't ignore. But it's something
so
we have
true.
to do more than
we must
address.
We gotta address this issue, and today is a good day to be an American, because when I've said this 8 times today. This sends an wake-up call to every police officer that thinks they can get away with this again. You cannot. President Biden also saying today, such a verdict is much too rare. For many people, it seems like it took a unique and extraordinary convergence of factors. And although I probably didn't read it like President Biden said it with sympathy, but I think that comment is all too true. I need someone in Congress to introduce legislation to fix this problem. I'm tired of, like Arty said, your thoughts and your prayers, okay? Well, listen, faith without works is dead. We learned that in the Bible, okay? I don't know, your religious beliefs, but let me just tell you, if you got all these thoughts and prayers, thank you for those. We appreciate those. We hear those. We acknowledge those. But it's time to act. It's time to act. Stop hiding behind that. Stop hiding behind that. I've got a constituency. I've got this. I've got that. Listen, if you want to effect real change, we didn't vote you in there so that you could make nice with Matt Gaetz and Marjorie Taylor Greene. That was not the point of you coming into Congress. The point of you coming into Congress was to represent the things that you were elected on. And see, a lot of people go in with their whole big idea of gun reform, prison reform, this reform, that reform, every other kind of reform in the world. And then when you don't do that, and then you get into office, and then it's like, oh, I completely forgot about that, but I'm going to go eat frog legs with the Donald, okay? That is a problem. Like, that's a huge issue. And I'm talking to you, Mitt Romney. I'm talking to Mitt Romney right now because we all know that you were vying for that Secretary of State position and you went to go eat those fried legs. But then you were talking about how bad of a job he was doing and how much the police needed to be reformed. Okay? So
Preach it.
stop getting mixed messages to the American people because it's driving me nuts. Okay? It's driving me insane. Now, I'm supposed to be asking a question right now, but I feel like that just needed to be said.
Yes, TJ.
Stop doing that. It
Stop
drives
eating
me
frog legs
physically
with That should be
insane. Stop it.
It's so true. It's so true because we have all these politicians that go in and some have good intentions, most do it solely for the money and clout. And they need to get off their asses and realize that we can unhire you as quickly as we voted you and hired you in. And they don't seem to get that. And I feel like maybe finally something's happening. It's something I'm realizing this session with the Democrats in charge. I think they're realizing, oh, we might actually have to do something now. I definitely feel like our generation. Yes, I feel like our generation is probably one of the most active generations when it comes to young people wanting to be involved since the boomers, really. I don't think anyone else truly really has been having to deal with so much shit. And consecutively, I mean, what has our generation faced? We were born into 9/11 and terrorism.
Yep.
We were born into a war. We were born into a recession. We had to deal with since we have been born, we've never known a day without a school shooting. We have had to deal with a pandemic. Hi, I'm 22 years old and I have to graduating into a pandemic economy. Others have had to graduate into a recession economy. And it's just like, what else? It's like it's so unreal the amount of shit that we've had to go through. And then they say, oh, sorry, you're too young, you're too ignorant, you're not at all smart enough, you don't have the experience. Well, if you had the experience, why didn't you get anything done the past, 20, 30, 40 years?
Right. I mean, in what other country that has the amount of money and power that we have, do we see politicians who don't legislate, not even remotely legislate? There's politicians that go through their whole term without having even seen a bill. I don't even know if all of our members of Congress know how to write a bill. So, like, that's where
it's true
right now.
It's so true. It's like, why can't we have Jacinda Ardern? Like, come on, they had one mass shooting, and they banned assault weapons. Like, what, within a month or two?
Literally,
like
a month and a half.
They had no COVID cases. They had like maybe 6, and now they're able to party and do all that. Like, they were able to do that in January. And it's just like competent leadership with people who understand what the hell is going on is exactly what we need right now. And I hope to dear God this entire horrific event and this trial and this the guilty decisions that have been made finally click it into people's minds. Activism and engaging in our society in an active and vocal role it changes something. You get a voice when you say something, it finally is heard.
I think
absolutely. I just quickly, because I feel a soapbox, and I feel it underneath my feet. I just want to stand on it for one quick second.
1 second. Sorry,
the
I had
judge
to.
today So we all know Maxine Waters. We all love her. She is the aunt in my head, okay? Along with Josephine Okito. Who is Josephine Okito? Joy Behar. But my point is, she made some comments yesterday, which are all truthful. But the judge in this case said, I'll give you that Congresswoman Waters may have given you something to appeal on that may result in this whole trial being overturned. That was yesterday. Today, fast forward, we see the jury convict Derek Chauvin. First of all, we knew that this mistrial nonsense wasn't even going to fly, right? Okay. She's Maxine Waters. You don't mess with Mama Maxine. That's number one.
Mama Maxine. Wow. Okay.
You
You didn't
don't
know
mess.
that?
No,
Mama Max, I love that's one of my favorite things. Whenever I see her, I'm like,
so
preach
that's
it.
like been a thing, and I'm just like,
Yes, you have. It's been a thing this whole time.
Mm-hmm.
Ever since her thing with Mnuchin, it's been a thing.
Mm.
But
as it should.
Oh, totally.
Yeah.
You don't mess with Mama Maxine. And when Marjorie Taylor Greene was trying to get her expelled from Congress, Mama Maxine had a few choice words to say. I wish we could show the clip, but I don't even know how that works on here. We're not even going to try that. My point is, Black people in this country, Black legislatures are stepping up to the plate. Now, Maxine Waters has been doing this for a very, very long time. But she is training the next generation of Black legislators. Cori Bush, Ayanna Pressley, all of those folks those are the only two that are sticking out my head right about now. But if you know some other ones, drop them in the chat and I'll mention those. But she is raising those legislatures up to do the work and to continue that work. And first of all, she's 81, 82, so around that area. She is the most virile person of her age category in politics. Like, I could sit and watch her for hours. Nancy Pelosi, not so much. Do I respect Nancy Pelosi? A lot. But Nancy, you know,
she's not the best of speakers and orators.
Yes, she's not that good. But Maxine Waters has an ability to give notes and criticism and still be able to be right. You know, I think a lot of Republicans get up in arms when Democrats speak up, speak out, give our voices. But when it is our turn, when it is their turn, we are supposed to sit down, be quiet, and eat the cake at a May. There is not a. We're supposed to compromise. This is not that era. We as Democrats, as Democratic voices, and I know Arty, you're a progressive, right? I think. Yeah. Arty's a progressive. Liam is a progressive, I'm assuming.
I am how do I best describe it? Left. I'm a middle left. Like
middle.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know if
I'm a progressive, but progressives don't consider me progressive enough.
Let me just say one thing. Lizzie Warren. Say if I had to encapsulate Lizzie Warren.
Oh my God, she's my dream.
My son.
I got to meet her in Lewis. Well, I got to be like close to her during COVID. At an event in Lewiston, Maine. And what she was saying is very similar to everything that we've talked about. And it was just so. It's just nice to have smart ass women who know what who teach everyone, bring them to school, teach them, and she gives you this hope that something can happen. Maxine Waters says, Mama Maxine does the exact same thing.
Yes.
And it's people like that. It's just so nice to know that
it's
nice to have someone that.
It's politicians that do the work. It is politicians that sit down look at the issue and do the work. And I can tell you from like having worked at Wharton's campaign offices, if there's any discussion about anything, the amount of diversity that each office makes sure is at the table. And even if we are making a plan that concerns African American or racial disparity, it is being led by African American people, because every person in that room recognizes that I am not the person to decide on these things. I need to see what I can do to help. And I think that's so important, because often we look at ways to help I think we look at activism in a lot of ways. How do white people perceive issues about racial disparity?
Yep.
How do white people think that we can fix this, when it's been going on in the African American community for literally ever? So
I would say that that's what a statesman does. A politician is, I think there's three categories that is now in modern day America. You have the political hacks, which are the Marjorie Taylor Greens and the other idiots there. Politicians who try but fail to be able to be statesmen. And statesmen are people like Maxine Waters and Elizabeth Warren, and those people that understand when to step back and let other people help make the decision. Because you have to be able to acknowledge that you don't know anything, or you don't know everything, and acknowledge that you are not always the one that should have the answer. You're the one that should facilitate helping to get to the answer. I think that's something that people don't realize or forget nowadays.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, Jonah told me to keep this thing at an hour. And I always say, when you get a bunch of Democrats together, we talk about pretty much everything. The other
Can
thing
I mention one thing before we head out? There has been a story, and I'm not sure if you guys have read this, but I definitely highly recommend it. I was trying to figure out how to tie it in earlier, but I didn't. My brain forgot it.
This is your segment of the show. Go ahead. You're real to sit back and watch.
There is an issue going right now, and I don't think I've ever heard of anything happen like this. But our two largest newspapers in our state, the Portland Press Herald and Bangor Daily News, jointly did an investigation together to look into our state police. And apparently the Maine State Police have been either redacting documents on officer involved, any officer like decisions made, the reprimands or anything like that, with officers omitting information or being incredibly vague with what they're saying, like referring to an officer incident as they've been reprimanded for the 2019 incident. And then there's no accompanying information at all. Officers who have any issues. For instance, there was an officer who helped his ex-girlfriend aid and abet law enforcement from when she had a car crash and hurt someone. There are multiple domestic violence incidents, multiple violence issues that they have omitted, or the reprimands against officers have varied from, I kid you not, 2 days probation to 60 days probation for stealing a car and driving to Vermont and then smoking pot or drinking or something like that.
And we know these get rehired.
Oh yes, they have. And that's the other thing. And it's outrageous what's happening. And like, it makes no sense. Every other, like, they give a 2-sentence explanation of what's going on and no backup, and then the officers can actually have their entire record either burned, completely omitted, or they can just have it entirely redacted. And like all the other police officer organizations in our state give pages upon pages upon pages of what's happened in an internal investigation. But there was a quote that said, by the chief of Maine Police, if internal investigations can't find anything, they close the case. Or like if they reach a dead end, they just close the case. They don't actually like investigate. Oh God, there's so many horrible things, but I would highly check that out.
Arty, I hate to do this, but we're on a time schedule, so I just want to do this one other thing real quick.
Arty, do you want to just say like 30 seconds of what you were going to say on top of that, and then we can go on to what TJ wants to end with?
Yeah, go ahead.
Sure. I was just going to say that, like, I think that's just the biggest thing. When you put so much power and so much money into one singular system in your country, it's going to result in these flaws because we've done so much to protect officers to be like, oh, what if this happens? We've done nothing to actually protect our communities, which is the whole reason, or at least we believe the intention of having the police force there.
Mm-hmm.
And that's all I wanted to say.
No. Great. We thank you both for that, because I think this is an important conversation that we're going to keep talking about on this panel. I don't know about any other show, but on this show, we're talking about real issues, real topics, real things that are affecting people. So I just want to say thank you to our two favorite co-hosts, aka Liam and Arty. They are the most incredible political minds of a generation. She actually got a stipend for working with one of her campaigns, and I moderate this show and I don't get paid. So, I need her to negotiate my contract for the next season of this show.
They should be paying us
so much.
That's why I'm in engineering, because it's guaranteed money. That's why I did not specifically go into the political field.
Well, you know what? You need to text Jordy, okay? Because we've been doing this show. We've done 5 episodes of this show, okay? And so we need him to either come on the show.
I'm trying to get merchandise for all of us, and I'm going to give them wicked shit, don't worry.
Frog legs with Donald. That should be like all of our merch. Yeah. Don't eat frog legs with Donald. I would die.
We need to make that bumper stickers. Or
stickers. I was thinking, we need to have the whole branding team meeting, because listen, this show was Jonah's brainchild, and so
is he still on? I don't know if he's still on.
I don't think he's here. He gave me the platform, which I'm so excited that he did, because I get to talk about what I want for an hour a week. So thanks for that. But I think this is such an important conversation that we're going to keep having. Listen, I just want to say thanks to not only to our co-hosts, but to all of our followers and friends. I hope that people watch this show. We get views upwards in the hundreds. Jonah keeps telling me to promote the stuff all the time, so it's all over my story every week. So thanks for that. We met our goal of 200 followers last week, and we're into the 230s. But keep following, keep subscribing, keep viewing, keep watching. Arty's gonna moderate one of these shows coming up real soon. Liam's gonna come in and moderate a show. It's a really fun thing that we get to do I'm gonna stop doing these outros like after the next 2 weeks, because then people get to know what I'm saying. But I think we've done this now 5 times, and every time it's a different conversation. It's more people watching, it's more people listening, it's more people taking mental note. We have more guests on. Liam was supposed to be a guest, and I don't think people really understand that. We called him in to host a segment, okay? And then people just fell in love with him so much, and so we had to bring him back.
You literally messaged me at 10:30. I happened to come across your Twitter with the Meidas main Twitter account. I friended you. You messaged me. I didn't see it until like maybe an hour or two before last Saturday, and then I was like, oh, that'd be cool. I would love to do that.
Yeah, and so it's just and then Arty. First, I don't think Arty really knew that she was going to be doing all of this stuff.
No. Okay, here's the thing. I got this DM. So it was like, oh, they want to follow you. I'm like, okay. It looks cool. Follow them back. And then it was like a message being like, do you want to be a co-host on this show? I'm like, what show? What organization? I'm like, let's get on a Zoom call and let's talk about this. So I had on this whole like hour-long Zoom call with Jonah. And we already knew each other kind of. And then I was like, you know what? Sure. And I'm just like, I'm in it now, and I'm loving it. So
yeah, I think this group, and I really feel like this is an interview now that people are asking us questions. But I think that this group, this panel, if you remember the first show we did, it had 2 people on it. Jonah's back because she's sending. See if you can join now, Jonah.
I
Although
have to
we're
actually
leaving,
get going, but
and Liam's leaving, but I just want to say, this group of people that we've kind of assembled here, is kind of like our Marvel dream team, because everybody brings this sort of different kind of persona and just different kind of thought process. See, I'm a moderate. I'm like Joe, okay? And the other day I threw out Andrew Yang's name, and like the whole comment section went up in flames. But my point is, I just
Literally,
think,
no, my friend Sarah went on Snapchat after and asked me, like, Arty, your face when he said Andrew Yang, like, I started laughing. I think I took a screenshot and she sent it to me of, like, my face when you said Andrew Yang.
like, we've got to have a meeting about what is so wrong with him. I don't know.
You know what? Let's not now.
But I
anywho,
think
but I think
but no,
what I definitely want to do is I want to try to get Meidas Touch. I was trying to get the Meidas Touch Instagram to be able to do it, but Jordy and Brett didn't get back to me in time.
yeah,
We'll make it work
I'm
next
sitting
time.
through this
I'm gonna
whole
bug.
thing.
Don't worry. I will bug them to death because I'm very good at that.
Yeah,
But we're also going to be having a Meidas University Instagram Live. You kind of spurred me on to wanting to do this. So if you want, please feel free to join us on when we have when we have kind of our Meidas University inaugural thing. Um, yes, don't worry. I will continuously stop. I never stop spamming them. They will get sick of me eventually, and they'll finally like Brett finally responded. Jordy didn't. Don't worry. I'll have it send an automatic message like every 2 minutes just to say,
Oh,
"Where are you? Where are you?" I don't know. I'll do something
where you at?
interesting.
yeah.
That
But
I'll
no,
send like a bark emoji. Um, this dog always barks. But anywho, I definitely want to make this as much as possible and get as many views because this is such an amazing show and it's helped me. Look, I've been here 2 times and I've learned so much. So I have to get going, but thank you so much, TJ, and thank you so much, Ari. It's been wonderful to be able to talk to you today, and I cannot wait till our next video.
yeah, it's gonna be great. So I just wanted to say thanks to Liam. Liam is going to exit. Artie and I are going to probably exit shortly thereafter. Um, Listen, this is our show. Okay, so they want a
They want
podcast.
to William.
They want a podcast.
We'll
William,
get
give
there.
you.
I'm
You-
talking to the brothers about it. We'll see what we can do. They want to be able to make. Ben actually talked about wanting to give us like a podcast type thing or a show. So we're going to see what happens
We're gonna see
within
what
the next two
happens here.
weeks.
See, listen, but we need those live views to go up, and I need some more hearts. Okay, send some hearts. Okay,
Yes.
I need
That's
to
what
see
we're going to
hearts
try. We're going to
everywhere.
try to do that.
So
Okay. Have a
we
great
need.
evening, everyone. I have to get
Bye,
going.
Liam.
Bye, Liam.
Bye.
But
Yeah.
yeah, we're gonna try and get something done for you guys because thank you for the hearts. I appreciate that. Really boosts my self-esteem so much. But thanks for that. We're gonna try and get a podcast for you guys. We're doing a lot of different things, so just be aware of those things. Artie and I are gonna be doing some stuff because she and I like to spar a little bit. It's a lot of fun to
Yeah.
just a tiny bit. So it's just we're doing a whole bunch of stuff. But listen, here's what we need you to do. We need you to follow if you're not, because if you're not, we know. Make sure you're following. Make sure you're commenting later. Share it with a friend. Send it to somebody. We like to watch, your comments and different things. But if you really want a podcast, DM Jonah because he's the guy that I have to push to do things like that. So just do that, and we'll see you. Oh yes, the rundown is every Friday at 4:30 Eastern Standard Time. I completely forgot about that because I thought this is what we were doing, but that's okay. We can do 2 shows in a week. Who cares?
This is the longest outro I have ever seen.
It's the longest one I've ever heard in my entire life. But we're going to go because I've got something else I've got to do today. But so thank you, all of you, and we'll see you next time.
Bye, guys.